During the month of July 2023, a devastating accident occurred in the fitness industry. Justyn Vicky, a 33-year-old Indonesian bodybuilder who began sharing content in 2011, tragically died crushed under a 460-pound squat only 3 months ago due to a lack of proper spotting and safety. Soon after the accident, lots of media covered the story, including many influencers.
Today I want to talk a little bit about the very sad tragedy that occurred recently with bodybuilder Justyn Vicky.
Fortunately, everybody, we have yet another fatal injury in the gym.
This is a freak accident, more rare than 1 in a million, perhaps 1 in 100 million.
Why did this happen? How did this happen?
He was squatting 210 kilos or 462 pounds. As he started his ascent out of the bottom, he missed the lift, which sometimes happens when you're performing max attempts. He ended up falling backwards into his spotter, who did not help him back up, but rather the bar ended up falling forward over his neck, fracturing his cervical spine.
An awful day for the fitness industry. Yet, Justyn is far from being the only. A year before, an anonymous woman had her neck crushed under a 405-pound squat, ending her life instantly. Or about 2 months ago, a Chinese young man was tragically killed under a 275-pound bench press. These are just a fraction of accidents that happen on a daily basis, not including sometimes life-altering accidents and near-death experiences. Only these accidents were completely avoidable.
It was avoidable.
And the point I'm trying to say is, his death, unfortunately, it was preventable.
Very sad to see this. It was a completely avoidable accident. There was just some really poor decision making going on.
And upcoming tragedies could also be avoidable, unless people repeat the same mistakes. Let me ask you a question. What is it that truly matters in your life in terms of fitness? If you're on the younger side, you might care more about getting stronger, bigger, and many other superficial pursuits.
And I realized I want to be fucking jacked as fuck, literally huge. So I've decided to blast hella gear, get literally huge, and go for that IFBB.
Hell yeah, bro.
If you're on the older side, on the other hand, you may have gone past that stage and realized your health and longevity mattered more than simply looking good or being strong, and your desires to prove something to people has drastically gone down.
1 rep maxes just aren't worth it. I've done 1 rep maxes in my past when I was doing a lot of powerlifting training, but now I don't do it anymore just because the risk-reward ratio just isn't worth it, especially when you're just trying to build muscle and be more athletic.
I don't know if it has to do with declining testosterone levels as you get older. I don't know if it has to do with just experience and getting smarter as I've gotten older. But you do not need to lift those weights to look as good as possible.
Each accident and death that we witnessed that occurred in the past was only caused by one specific emotion, an abundance of ego. Now, out of the countless definitions, ego is often defined as a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, meaning that an abundance of it leads someone to think too highly of themselves. That is the root cause of any of these accidents.
1, he could not handle the weight. The second you pick up that weight, whatever the weight is, and you walk out with that weight and your body's swaying side to side, in powerlifting, in a proper powerlifting setting, you are not allowed to start the lift until the bar is settled.
And while trying to get the weight up, you can clearly see that the man could not get this weight. It was simply too heavy.
It's pretty clear that he cannot handle this amount of weight safely, just from the lift off.
I mean, first of all, from the look of the squat, it doesn't look like the guy was even capable of doing the 450.
It clearly looks like the weight is too much for him to handle.
So he had no business handling that weight. And there's a lesson to be learned in all this. There is no need to ego lift out there. There is always someone stronger. There is always next week. There is always tomorrow. There is always next year.
Thinking you can lift a weight definitely outside of your capabilities. Thinking that no preparation or help is needed, or that it'll be fine because you can do it. Until you can't. And then comes the regret of not preparing and not asking for any help. This is when tragic accidents can happen. Suddenly you're stuck under a far too heavy weight, your sympathetic nervous system is highly activated and panic courses through your veins. That is the worst possible scenario to make a rational decision, and this is why we need to prevent accidents before they even happen. Earlier, I asked you what really mattered to you in terms of fitness. At a certain point in life, you may begin to realize that the instant gratification you get from attempting personal records isn't worth the risk that comes with it. You begin to think about the consequences that could come from attempting heavy lifts and start to question whether those are really worth it. And oftentimes, the older you get, the more likely you are to make the right decision. These are the two first major principles to avoid any accident in the gym, whether it be minor or major. Start thinking long term about whether those lifts are actually worth it and lower your ego, which is very often the only cause for someone to go too heavy. Once you keep those two principles in mind, it becomes almost impossible to experience a major accident. But this is of course something you will forget, and attempting a PR or going for that heavy set will naturally still be in your mind, and I understand that. But I'm begging you, if you plan on going for that PR or that heavy set, at least do it safely. Many of the accidents who went viral could have easily been prevented. You'll see why in just a second. Whether it was Justyn who was stuck under a squat or that anonymous woman getting her neck crushed under a far too heavy box squat, all of them could have very easily been prevented. Let's take Justyn as an example, as he is a very good learning lesson for us all, and because of the 3 major mistakes he made leading to his death. The reason he stayed stuck at the bottom and was in panic with what to do with the bar is simply because of a lack of safety bars. Had the safety bars been put in place properly, then the bar would have simply stopped at the height of wherever those safety bars were placed, and Justyn could have got out with ease, which is a first major mistake he made.
Our second mistake that he made here was not using the safety bars or safety racks or safety pins, whatever you want to call them.
When attempting any weight that you think you might not get, you need to squat within the racks.
He was not in a squat cage with the safety catch bars properly set.
The first lesson of all is to always put on safety racks whenever you go for a PR that may potentially fail. Always. What I will give him credit for is his use of a spotter. Whenever you fail a lift, a spotter will be there to either catch or help you lift the weight back up. Lesson number 2. Whenever you go for a PR, always have a spotter. The choice is yours. It could be a friend, a gym partner, or a stranger next to you. Simply make sure they're strong enough.
He is spotting this young chap, I say young again, he's 30 years old, and he's holding the bar. When you are spotting somebody, you should not have your hands on the bar. You should be right under his armpits. That's where you want your hands.
When you spot someone in a squat, you get underneath them and you have your hands on their chest and under their arms so you can lift them, so you can almost squat with them. That's how you spot the squat. This guy was pushing on the bar, Chris.
And so he had one spotter who had his hands on the bar. That is not the proper way to properly spot a back squat. The hand should be on either side of the person's chest and or stomach.
The spotter had no idea how to properly spot. He was way too far away and his arms weren't wrapped under Justyn's armpits.
Now, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about how this guy is spotting is completely wrong. It's not entirely true. Spotting like this is completely fine, as long as the weight is light enough for you to just lift off someone's back. Meaning if someone can't get up from that bottom position, as the spotter, you need to be strong enough to be able to lift that barbell off someone's shoulders.
Now, when it comes to squatting, oftentimes one spotter will not suffice. The reason is because squatting tends to involve heavier weights, making it harder for only one person to get the weight back up. Generally, you'd want to have one person in the back and 2 others on each side. Even powerlifting competitions often have 5 spotters in total.
I've done many powerlifting meets where I have been the main spotter from behind. You need 3 spotters when it comes to 1 rep maxes, 1 on either side and 1 guy behind it.
And when spotting a squatter, you need a minimum of 3 spotters. Anything less than 3, you are at risk. And even with 3, things can actually happen. With heavier weights at powerlifting meets, we have 5 spotters.
They have 3 to 5 experienced powerlifters who do the spotting.
That was Justyn's second major mistake. Even though he had a spotter present, he wasn't able to lift the weight on his own, which led to Justyn being stuck at the bottom. But then came his third major mistake. In that bottom position, Justyn had 2 choices. 1, get out like he did, which led to his death, or 2, get out by throwing the bar backwards, which would have saved his life. See, bailing out of a squat can only be done in 2 ways, and the safest way will always be by throwing the bar backwards, making sure of course that the spotter is away and that nobody behind you could get hurt.
He did not know how to bail safely. You never bail by leaning forward. That's how people die. You always bail by rolling the bar off your back.
Now, using a spotter and safety racks applies to any lift that involves you being under the bar, meaning that deadlifts, barbell rows, and so on don't have any of these risks. When you see accidents like these occur, it'll always be either on squatting or benching. Squatting we've already covered, yet benching has another specificity. Whenever you don't have access to its spotter nor safety racks, if you feel a bench, try your best to lower the bar as far as possible from your neck, as it will allow you to more easily roll it off your chest and do the roll of shame as they call it. Now please do not get influenced by its name, because it could easily save your life. Also make sure to not wear a lifting belt, as it will block the bar as you're trying to roll it off your chest.
One thing that people never talk about is what happens when you dump a weight while bench pressing with a belt on. There is a safety issue. You see, if you are bench pressing alone and you attempt to dump a weight, guess what? The barbell is going to get caught up in your fucking belt. You will not be able to dump the weight because the belt is bulky. The belt will elevate, giving you a large gut. And whenever you try to dump that weight, it's going to get stuck.
Safety in the gym, I believe, should be a #1 priority for everyone. I'm tired of seeing easily avoidable deaths and accidents in the gym, but still happen because of this excessive ego that people have.
Safety first when squatting. This is not a joke, bro. This is no joke, and hopefully this is a lesson for everybody.
Be safe in the gym. It's very easy to get hype and psyched up by watching all these Instagram reels and TikTok videos of training montages and everyone's lifting like insane animals. But remember, you should always practice good technique and use weights that you can handle for a full range of motion and never be dependent on a spotter. If you need a spotter, then the chances are you're going too heavy.